So thanks again, Sheena, and thank you to Cancer Care Alberta and Wellspring for hosting this event tonight. I was really happy to learn about the topic because, like many of you, exercise or the motivation to do it has been challenging for me during this time. Frankly, I could use a few tips on how to stay active through the pandemic. Spring was tough, as we all know, but then summer rolled around and I was excited to get outside and move some more, and so things got a bit better. But now here we are staring down this long winter of hibernating from the cold and from COVID, and I'm watching the steps on my Fitbit go down and down daily. So I want to share a bit about myself. Like most of you, I'm living with metastatic cancer. It's been nearly 10 years since my first diagnosis of stage 2 breast cancer. And it's been 6 years since we found out that my cancer had spread to my lymph nodes and my lungs. As Sheena said, I'm a mom to a sweet, funny 12-year-old boy, and I've been married to my husband, Tim, for 13 years. Before my metastatic diagnosis, I was a communications director, but now I spend all of my time working on my health. I consider myself a pretty well-trained, highly experienced cancer patient. Over the last decade, I've had a mastectomy, an axillary node dissection, 2 breast reconstruction surgeries. I've had my ovaries and my thyroid removed. I've had numerous biopsies, palliative radiation to 5 different parts of my body, and chemotherapy. I've been through 6 different treatment protocols, and I've had over 100 rounds of treatment. I've lost my hair twice. I've gained and lost many pounds, trust me, and I have dealt with so many side effects, it's hard to list them all. So about 4 years ago, I went through a particularly challenging time. Treatment was failing and my cancer was growing. Chemotherapy and this new fancy targeted drug weren't helping. I was in constant pain and my activity level was really limited and it was draining my spirits. So I began to lose hope. I was referred to a palliative care doctor and I ended up on an opioid patch, which left me bedridden. And it was then that I knew that I had to do something different. So fortunately, it was also that time that I discovered the Alberta Cancer Exercise Study and Wellspring. I really can't say enough good things about my experience with ACE. For years, I've been trying on my own to exercise and stay active while managing all the side effects from treatment, but it was hard to attend regular fitness classes or gyms that weren't designed to address the specific challenges of cancer patients. The lymphedema, neuropathy, the radiation and surgical damage, the weakness and balance issues, and of course, the worst of all, the fatigue. I've been told from the start that exercise would help me manage my side effects and especially the fatigue. And one of the first tips my oncologist gave to me was, he said, Candace, take a lap, not a nap. So that mantra still rings in my ears every day when I'm feeling particularly unmotivated. And so anyway, at the time I took up walking and yoga and I did my best, but it wasn't until I found ACE that I really felt like I found my groove. So when I learned ACE would conduct a fitness assessment with me and design my own personalized workout, I felt this huge sense of relief. It was like I had finally found the exercise prescription that I had been searching for so long. And it's not an exaggeration to say that ACE changed my life. The staff quickly became a real integral part of my healthcare team. And the other participants were my inspiration and they were my people, right?
Yeah.
I was completely dedicated to my exercise program from the day I began, and visiting the Wellspring gym became one of my favorite things to do. My workouts not only made me physically stronger, but mentally as well. I regained hope and I regained a sense of control over my health, something that I felt had been missing for a while. So after completing my participation in the study, I continued working out with the ACE grad class right up until the spring when the pandemic struck and closed the gym. I always understood how much ACE and the friends I met at the gym contributed to my overall well-being, but I don't think I fully appreciated just how much they helped my motivation until the pandemic struck. Once I was on my own and didn't have that regularly scheduled appointment with the gym, it became much more difficult for me to get up and do what I needed to do, even with all the time in the world to do it. So here I am again, feeling challenged, in need of a little push, and very thankful for tonight's speaker, Dr. Nicole Coulos-Reid. Dr. Coulos-Reid is a professor with the Faculty of Kinesiology and an adjunct professor with the Department of Oncology, Cummings School of Medicine at the University of Calgary. She also holds a research associate position with the Department of Psychosocial Resources at the Tom Baker Cancer Center, Cancer Care, Alberta Health Services. Nicole's research examines the role of exercise in cancer survivorship. This includes a focus on moving the evidence to practice through the implementation of exercise in clinic and community-based settings. The goal is to build exercise into standard cancer care, thereby improving the quality of life of cancer survivors. So join me in welcoming Dr. Coulos-Reid.
Thank you, Candace. I'm going to start screen sharing in just a second, but first I just want to thank Candace for sharing her story. It's lovely inspiration to set the stage, and I'm so thankful that you were able to join the ACE program and see the benefits of moving more. I also want to acknowledge that tonight, you know, wherever you are, get comfortable. I look forward to chatting with you at the end. We're going to save questions until the end. If you need to jot things down or put them in the chat, we'll come back to them at the end. I won't be able to see you once I start sharing my screen here. But I look forward to chatting more at the end, and any questions, whatever you have. We're going to get started now. It's a pleasure to be here tonight, and thank you to Wellspring, Calgary, Wellspring, Edmonton, and Cancer Care Alberta for having me. Similar to the start from Sheena, I want to first of all acknowledge that we live and work within the traditional territories here of the Blackfoot and the people of the Treaty 7 region in Southern Alberta. I also want to acknowledge that the work my lab does and our exercise oncology work champions opportunities for equity, diversity, and inclusivity within what we do, our research questions, the training we provide, the programming we offer, and the development of resources. Just my disclaimers, which really aren't relevant to tonight, and I will let you know I have sent a PDF of the slides already to Sheena, so those can be circulated to you afterwards if you're interested in having them. So tonight we're going to start actually with a little bit of movement before we get going. So I want you to just be sitting comfortably. I can't see you, so I want you to really just be in tune with your body and what you can do for movement. Okay, we're not going to get up and start moving like an ACE class online, but just slowly just settle into you wherever you're seated. Hopefully you're somewhere comfortable. If you can sit up with both feet on the floor, if you're curled up on the couch, though, listening, watching on your iPad, that's fine as well. I'd like you just to roll your shoulders. And as you're doing this, just breathe easy. It's just a grounding breath. You don't have to force your breath at all. You can slow it down a little bit. And just rolling your shoulders. Often when we're tired, when we're stressed, we carry a lot of tension up through our upper body into our shoulders and neck. You can just reverse those circles, rolling forward. And again, I want you just to slow down, to focus on how your body feels right now, no matter what you've done today. We're all going through very challenging times as we live through the pandemic. And sometimes just taking a moment to breathe and gently move your body can be one of the best antidotes to stress. If it's available to you, I'd love for you to take your hands out in front and just open up wide. Whatever this feels like, your arms can be down low, resting on pillows. They can be up high. If you want, you can gently, with your breath, just twist side to side. Very, very gentle, small movements. And again, just focusing on your breath. And you can bring those arms down. As soon as we do that, we open up through our chest, okay? Anytime you have a chest opener, and that just invites energy in through our breath and our lungs to circulate and to energize our body. So opening up here, and then the other one I love, and this is the same variation if we were down on all fours on a mat, cat-cow pose in yoga. But just bring your arms out in front and round through your shoulders, dropping your chin to your chest. And feel that nice stretch over your shoulders and across your back. And again, your hands can be down lower, resting on a table in front, and just drop your chin. You can pull them in front if they reach and touch each other. And then just open up, rolling them a couple more times. And we will get started talking about living your best with advanced metastatic, chronic, or non-curable cancer. I'm going to speak to what we do in exercise oncology and identifying the benefits of moving more, and then really talk about some of the tangibles, some of the habits to help you move more, especially when we're living in these challenging times. And really the foundation of wellness, and exercise is one of those pillars. Whether it's exercise, physical activity, or simply moving more, it all adds up to your wellness. So for a bit of background, for those that maybe haven't experienced exercise classes, there's a whole field of research in exercise oncology. Some important terms tonight. Now, often we use the term cancer survivor or cancer patient. I'll be very cognizant this evening of using the term individuals living with cancer from the point of diagnosis onward. And I recognize in our literature in exercise oncology, the most often used term is cancer survivor. And we typically talk about cancer survivor on treatment or off treatment. So sometimes in some of the literature, that's the term you will see, even when we are talking about individuals with advanced cancer. And then really what we're focused on tonight is those terms around movement, physical activity, which is all the movement you do throughout the day, any of your bodily movement. Oftentimes I like to use the term movement to talk about your physical activity. So how can you move more for wellness? And then exercise. So Candace talked about the Alberta Cancer Exercise Program, and exercise is a subset of physical activity that is more structured and planned. And usually we're doing it in order to develop, improve, or maintain one or more components of our physical fitness. So it's usually got a more set purpose and oftentimes has direct health outcomes that we're looking for from engaging in it. Both of these are really important, okay? Physical activity and exercise. And it's not that we value one less or more. We just know that with exercise may become some more substantial benefits, but the value of moving more, the value of engaging in regular physical activity, the value of building in your usual activities, your activities of daily living to be less sedentary and more movement-based is absolutely critical to developing wellness. Now, this is an area that has really increased in growth in terms of the research over the past number of years. We're probably coming up on 30, 40 years, if not more, looking at exercise within a research setting. And if we take a look across all of this literature, we know clearly that exercise is both safe and beneficial at any stage of the cancer experience. So pre-treatment, that's prehabilitation focused types of studies where we're trying to get individuals better prepared mentally and physically for engaging in treatment. The bulk of the research really focuses on treatment and then immediately post-treatment. So that's where we see most of our exercise oncology studies, and then moving immediately post-treatment into survivorship. So what can we do to improve and to bring wellness really into the cancer journey? The growing area of research, and what I'm going to focus on tonight, is really the term and what we've looked at in terms of advanced cancer care. So individuals living with cancer. And this area of research really spans and has grown immensely over the past 5 years as treatments have improved and that landscape has really changed so that we see many types of advanced and metastatic or chronic cancers, people living with them for a number of years. And while that used to be an exclusion criteria for our exercise oncology studies, we used to say, well, if you're advanced, if it's metastatic, sorry, we don't know enough about it, just don't exercise. We know now the opposite to be true, that really there are enormous benefits from a physical functional perspective, but also a quality of life perspective to promoting and to providing exercise for all individuals living with cancer. And these are just some of the benefits, but some of these are ones that we see particularly evident in the advanced cancer literature. So improvements in emotional well-being, the indices of depression, anxiety, and stress are alleviated in individuals who are living with cancer who exercise versus not. We know quality of life is enhanced. and physical functioning. That's actually one of the most studied outcomes, and physical functioning across the board seems to be really enhanced in advanced cancer patients. Bone health, other treatment-related symptoms, we can see improvements in those. And then the one I'm going to focus just a little bit on, because this is the most reported negative side effect across all cancer types and is substantial and negatively impacts quality of life in individuals living with cancer, is this cancer-related fatigue. But before we get to that, I just want to highlight a couple of the reviews that have been done that have collated the research in this area of exercise for individuals living with advanced cancer and metastatic cancer. So this one by Stoddard in 2018 included a number of reviews, and their conclusion, and this was not just in advanced, but it included advanced, their conclusion was exercise is beneficial before, during, and after cancer across all cancer types, and it has an impact, a positive impact on a variety of cancer-related impairments. This one shows that the evidence, and really what our exercise guidelines that you'll see are based on, is that moderate to vigorous exercise is the best to improve physical functioning. But you can put like a little caveat there, a little asterisk, and we'll talk about that in terms of when the symptom burden is higher and the value of mild exercise as well. Therapeutic exercise is beneficial to manage treatment-related side effects. It can increase tolerance to cancer treatment, so individuals can receive more of their treatment, and it improves functional outcomes. Really important, especially for the work we do, is that supervised exercise appears to yield better results versus unsupervised, right? So it's, to Candace's point, recognizing after ACE had to stop because of the pandemic, the value of having that group to go to and having that instructor who'd been trained to lead you through a program. So overall, you can see that this review, a very recent review, shows a number of benefits and a number of considerations that we should be looking at when we're planning exercise oncology programming. Now, in the advanced cancer literature, it's a much smaller area of research. This one by Albrecht et al. In 2012, a little bit ago, physical activity in patients with advanced stage cancer looked at about 30 studies total, and not all of those were interventions. More recently, we see this one in 2017, a review, and this one included 19 studies, and their rationale was that in this population of people living with cancer, the burden of disease and the impact of treatments is substantial. And what we commonly see reported is reduced quality of life, limited physical function, diminished fitness, and increased fatigue. So in the 19 studies that they were able to pull into this review, it was all focused on intervention specifically for individuals in the advanced cancer populations. What they see across the 19 studies were that the two major indices of physical fitness, aerobic activity, and strength that were measured improved in the vast majority of the studies. Physical function, so ability to engage in activity living, some of the markers of movement, it improved in every single study. Fatigue improved in most of the studies, 11 of the 19. And what the authors highlight is that some of that variation in seeing if fatigue improves or not can be related to measurement issues as well. So it really does appear that fatigue is positively impacted. And then overall quality of life, again, different measures used, and sometimes we see variations based on that, but overall improved in most of the studies. So let's take a quicker or a little bit closer look at cancer-related fatigue. And so what we know happens with fatigue, it's the opposite almost of what you intuitively think, right? You're tired, especially middle of the day, end of the day, you just want to sit and rest. The issue is that you sit and rest, and that actually leads to deconditioning. So your sedentary behavior leads to deconditioning, including changes in things like your muscle atrophy. So you're losing muscle. That leads to more fatigue, which that vicious cycle results in more sedentary behavior, further deconditioning, right? So we see people get caught in this downward spiral. And unfortunately, while fatigue is the most common symptom reported by over 90% of all cancer patients and survivors and those living with advanced cancer, it's very rarely treated effectively, right? Unlike pain, unlike nausea, there is not a pill for fatigue. And so a couple of years ago, I was part of a group, this was published in 2018, and a group led by Dr. Lillian Sung out of Toronto. And we took a look at the literature examining physical activity across cancer types and looked at the value of different forms of physical activity modalities. Oh, sorry. And what this research really found, there were 170 studies that had measured physical activity and looked at fatigue. And really, what was consistent across this research was that fatigue was improved, and it didn't matter on the type of physical activity. Although there seemed to be slightly less benefits for resistance training alone, but aerobic activities, multimodal programs like our ACE program, and even other forms of physical activity like yoga, which can be considered a more mild or gentle form of physical activity. It didn't matter what type, it impacted fatigue. So really consistent results that physical activity, movement or exercise in general improves fatigue. The other piece that really came across in our review was that it didn't matter what type of cancer, what stage of cancer, gender, other medical factors. It was very consistent. Okay, so we didn't see that it only helped breast or that it didn't help prostate. We saw across the board that physical activity, really in comparison to other forms of interventions, as well as in comparison to control groups, improved fatigue and it improved other indices as well, including quality of life. Okay, so some pretty substantial evidence. And we published a series of different reviews looking at medical or pharmacological treatments for fatigue. We looked at just mindfulness-based practices for fatigue. And the effect size of physical activity was bigger than any other intervention. So it really does appear to be one of our very best tools to help cancer-related fatigue, so that it could be something that is offered as standard of care when people report experiencing this substantial fatigue. Now, just a little bit more on cancer-related fatigue. So while we know physical activity and exercise can help reduce it, what we've really seen in our research is that monitoring fatigue and energy is critical within exercise programs. And I always tell patient groups when I talk to them that you know your body best. Okay, and so monitoring, how do you feel? What is normal energy for you? What is less energy? What is more energy? Really, really important. Within our work, we use these two thermometers. We use fatigue thermometers and energy thermometers. And our goal with any movement that you do, whether it's in our exercise classes or just out on your own, is that when you start wherever you might be, you're here for fatigue, you're here for energy, during exercise, during movement, and after, fatigue should always diminish and energy should always go up. Okay, we don't ever want to see the reverse, because that means you're not listening to your body, you're doing too much right then, you haven't adjusted the way you need to. And I will say the beauty of using physical activity for energy and fatigue is that you can adjust your physical activity on any given day. So that's really the beautiful thing about physical activity and exercise. Based on how you do it, you can make it more moderate or vigorous or less and make it more mild, right? And you can do more, do less. So we can adjust it to any body at any point in time. But using these tools and monitoring both during but also afterwards can really help you gauge what is best for your body. The other pieces, and I want to thank Rosie Twomey and Max Eisel for some of these slides around fatigue that they actually talked about today in our webinar. We know 3 Ps for activity pacing to help really manage your cancer-related fatigue: planning, prioritizing, and pacing. So I don't know about all of you, but I love to have my day timer and my little electronic calendar now and plan my week and see what's going to fit in. And when you're living with cancer, the idea of being able to see, what does your week look like? Where will you fit your movement in? Your just little breaks, it could be 5 or 10 minutes, right? It doesn't have to be a full class all at once, especially if you are battling fatigue. But scheduling that out and planning it so that you can kind of move things around as need be, and planning in movement where you have the most energy so that you can increase that energy and then use that for other activities. Sometimes though, we need to plan and also prioritize. So it's hard to fit it all in. And when you are living with cancer and the burden of treatments or symptoms and side effects, really thinking about what's of value to you, what's important to you, what is going to give you the most joy, decrease stress, and enhance your well-being, your overall wellness, and prioritizing that within your week can really help manage chronic or cancer-related fatigue. And then really specific to when you do move is that pacing. So using those energy thermometers. We use other things like the Borg rating of perceived exertion scale. So How hard are you moving at any given time? All of those can be really useful tools to helping to manage your fatigue. And the goal should always be to enhance your energy levels and to decrease your feelings of fatigue. It's really important to recognize when we're talking about cancer-related fatigue and using physical activity. It's to choose activities that you enjoy, right? And we know from our literature review that many things have been found to be beneficial for different individuals across different studies. So a physical activity or exercise, traditional types of movement. I'm a yoga researcher as well, and I always tell individuals, if you do nothing else, try yoga, because you do get all of the physical benefits of a traditional exercise class, but you also get a mindfulness component. And when we're tired, when we're stressed, that mindfulness of just focusing on your body right now, your energy and your wellness can really be an added benefit above and beyond maybe some traditional exercise. Tai Chi also has been shown to be very beneficial for helping to manage fatigue. And some of these yoga, Tai Chi, they're still movement based, but they're gentler forms of physical activity that individuals can find very beneficial. And so you may have a balance in your lifestyle when you think about your movement. You may have structured exercise classes like ACE. You may have other programs that you go to at Wellspring, like our Exercise and Educate. And you may have yoga or Tai Chi or just gentle walking outside, right? So all of those things can fit, and it's really important that they're all recognized as forms of physical activity or exercise. So based on the evidence, and granted, there is less evidence for those living with advanced cancer, but we clearly know across the board that exercise is safe and feasible during treatment for all individuals, whether you have a more advanced cancer or earlier stage. After treatment, the exercise guidelines are actually recommending that exercise is essential for recovery and fitness. So essential, not recommended, not just should be there, we wish it would be there, but essential for recovery and fitness. And that's really what we're doing here in Alberta, is building that evidence and building the programs to hopefully cement exercise as part of standard cancer care for every individual diagnosed with cancer. And then really, when we talk about exercise or movement for individuals living with cancer, we really need to think about this third point. Individualization and tailoring are absolutely key. Okay, just handing you the guidelines, which are these, can be frustrating. It can appear unapproachable. It can be, well, I'm not even close to that, so why should I bother, right? So while the guidelines are good, we're not going to throw them out. I don't want you to look at these and go, I'm nowhere near that. I'm sitting on my couch, or I'm in bed, or I've got significant pain issues. There's no way I could do these. That's okay. These are meant to be kind of our gold standard. We know we get optimal health benefits, but you get wellness benefits from far less than achieving these guidelines. And so really what I want to shift our focus to now for the next little bit here is about tailoring exercise to meet the unique needs of palliative or advanced cancer patients. And I was fortunate to be part of Cancer Care Ontario's physical activity guidelines that they developed for dissemination through their cancer care system. And within that, there were specific recommendations for people living with cancer. This includes that recommendation that those living with cancer can safely engage in moderate amounts of activity during or after treatment. Moderate amounts at a minimum are recommended to improve the quality of life. And moderate, really, if you go back, I don't think I can go back here. No, it doesn't want me to go anywhere. Oh, I'm going to let this person in. Maybe that'll help. Oh, there we go. Just a second. Sorry. If we go back to this, moderate would be achieving, maybe not 90 minutes of of activity a week, but moderate levels would be somewhere in the midpoint of achieving the guidelines. Okay, so that's moderate, or you can think of moderate in terms of the amount of intensity that would be required to do it. So moderate amounts of activity are advocated to achieve quality of life as well as fitness benefits. Point 3 is super important. Okay, and it's really a pillar of how we see exercise fitting into standard cancer care. And that's that pre or baseline assessment, which is absolutely critical to ensure you can safely engage. And I think Candace brought this up when she said, she learned that she get an assessment prior to coming into the program. So for those living with the effects of disease, symptoms, side effects related to treatments or the advanced nature of their cancer, really critical. We can adjust and tailor the activity, but we need to know what the baseline is and where any issues are. The recommendation that Cancer Care Ontario included for point 4 is that the recommendation is to participate in physical activities in that supervised setting or in a group. Sorry, I'm not sure where that sound's coming from, if you can hear it or just me. So anyways, participating in those in a group-based setting or a supervised setting, really, really critical. And again, that's one of the central components of what we advocate in our building in our programs. The group-based, number one, it's to build that sense of community, to build that ability to connect with others, share this common experience of engaging in exercise and building wellness. That is a very powerful aspect of our exercise programs. And supervise, for us, it comes down again to safety. Comes to the expertise of the fitness professionals who are trained in exercise oncology to deliver these safe and effective programs. All of that is absolutely central to ensuring that that tailoring piece can happen and that your individual needs can be met within an exercise program. And then the fifth point, and it's really you don't get any of the benefits unless you're doing this on a regular basis. So your regular amount of exercise can be whatever works for your body, right? It can be 10 minutes most days of the week. It can be 30 minutes. You might get an hour. We know there's a dose response. So as you get more activity, there are more benefits to be attained. But again, the wellness benefits, the emotional, psychological benefits, those can come with mild levels of activity just performed on a regular basis. Additional considerations when we build out our tailoring, and this comes for us via assessment right at the beginning, is that we know we can assess various things, and then physical activity programming can be tailored to address things such as dyspnea, weight loss, changes in functional ability, pain, fatigue, or the management of other symptoms. And we really can tailor exercise to ensure that we're not going to exacerbate any symptoms, but also potentially to help moderate some of those symptoms. When we do assessments in our programs, whether it's for Wellspring's programs or our research-based, community-based programs, we're designing programs based on individuals' current fitness status and their performance based on that baseline testing. But also we want to know some other things, so experience of current symptoms and their current health, and then exercise experience and preferences. So what do you enjoy doing? You know, what is brand new to you? What do you have experience with in the past? All of these can really help to inform delivering an optimal program that's going to deliver what you need. So while those guidelines, again, may be important, and they're really what is kind of considered standard of care, I don't think we do ourselves a great service by relying just on handing those out, especially when we're dealing with populations that may have more of a burden of their disease. And so when we think of physical activity, as I mentioned right at the beginning, our ability to adapt activity based on that assessment is one of the beautiful pieces about physical activity. We use something called the FIT principle that you see here. So we can change activity based on the frequency. So how often do you do it? Based on the intensity. So mild, moderate, vigorous. Based on the time. So how long, the duration that you're going to do it for. And based on the types of activities that are chosen or the types of exercises. And when we use that FIT principle, it allows us to really tailor to adjust to significant health or fitness issues so that individuals are working at the level that is appropriate for them. Oftentimes when we talk about exercise and adapting for those that are living with cancer or have advanced cancer, choosing movement options over structured exercise may be very beneficial. And we've seen that even in our ACE programs where individuals are there for the group and they can engage in some of the activities, but they maybe can't do things at the same level. But that's okay. They're moving, they're trying new movements, and they're engaging and being supported within that group-based environment. So that can be just as beneficial. The beautiful thing of exercise is that you can do it from varied positions. So we've had individuals coming into our programs who are chair-based, who may be functional and can move with the help of a walker or with other aids, but really couldn't do stand-up activities. We've had individuals who couldn't go up and down off the floor for different activities, so we can modify. We can use props, we can use supports, we can perform activities in bed-based settings, right? So we've got programs that start in hospitals. One of our instructors that those who go to Wellspring Calgary may be familiar with, Julia. Julia's master's work and PhD work is really about developing a program in head and neck cancer that starts right in the hospital. So in the bed, what movements can be done to get them more functional so that they can then progress to moving in their room, to moving in the hallway, then to moving as they get out of the hospital and can transition eventually into our community-based programs. Consideration of energy and fatigue, really critical when we're designing a program and optimizing the duration in particular and the intensity. You see the picture of the stoplight there, and that's not to go warning and stop. The stoplight is what we've used as we've developed our programs to tailor exercise. So instead of it being, here's your one program and it's all or none, we provide programming at 3 levels. So the green program is your optimal program. When you feel your best, there's all the exercises that you can be working on. The yellow program is in between, like you've got moderate energy, maybe a little bit more tired. So it modifies things down a little bit. And then your red is the, okay, I just want some movement options and there's no way I've got the energy today to do the full program. And so we've tailored those same exercises down to the kind of red level. So you may be doing less exercises, adjusting them so that they're less intense, shorter durations, etc. Or maybe even some totally different exercises, more stretching and balance work versus aerobic and harder strength training. Okay, so that red, green, yellow stoplight program really takes away that all or none effect, where if I'm not having my best day and I can't get it all in, I don't know what to do, so I just don't do it at all. We give people options so that they always feel in control and they always have a choice, and they learn what those choices can be. And eventually they start to learn, well, I know I can change this if I'm feeling better and work a bit harder. The other piece around tailoring exercise, and I can't emphasize this enough, and it was lovely to hear Candace bring this up about how the ACE group really became friends and that her source of support in so many ways, is building these group-based programs to provide social support. And I know Wellspring, Calgary, and Edmonton, I mean, part of that model really is that welcoming into the home-based setting and that support you get from the volunteers to your leads in the different classes. We know we can use that exercise setting delivered in a group-based environment to increase connections and build community. And we've worked, I think, really hard to continue to do this during the pandemic through our online class offerings that I'll tell you a bit more about in case you're not familiar with later. So I just want to highlight some of the work that we have done just to show you kind of what is possible and really how we're trying to address being able to offer exercise to all individuals living with cancer. And so the NPAL program, this was an exercise and nutrition for physical activity in advanced lung cancer patients. So it was specific to lung cancer, and it was all advanced patients. And really what we did was design this program based on the individual's physical functioning and any prior physical activity history they had. And that this was all delivered pre-COVID and ended just at COVID as COVID began. But it was an at-home prescription recommended with 2 to 4 days of light to moderate intensity walking for about 10 to 30 minutes, depending again on the individual. And then an additional 1 or 2 days of resistance training using their own body weight. But we also provided them with some basic home-based equipment, a ball and a band, stretchy stuff that they could do. Now, this home prescription, though, was just the extra piece. The in-person exercise class led by a clinical exercise physiologist. So that's our really top level of fitness designation for individuals that can support prescribing, screening, and delivering exercise programs to individuals who are living with cancer. So individuals that are on treatment or individuals that have advanced cancers, metastatic cancers. The clinical exercise physiologist is really that expertise we need to ensure it's going to be safe and effective. And so the in-person class that was delivered included individually tailored aerobic, resistance, and flexibility exercises based on our baseline assessment. The resistance exercises really were about targeting major muscle groups. So think about your legs, your big glute muscles, strong upper body, shoulders, back, and performing those 2 to 3 sets in a reps with 8 to 10 reps in a circuit style of program. Even though it's advanced cancer, the program was progressive. So it started based on everybody's assessment, same exercise, but varied and tailored to wherever they were at the start point, with progressions built across the 12-week program. You can see there around 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and 10 weeks. Adding additional sets and reps, teaching them new exercises, progression to more challenging exercises. And this really wasn't the norm even 5 years ago in advanced cancer. We wouldn't progress them. We'd keep it very mild activity, just get them moving. And what we're really seeing through the exercise oncology literature is that we can do this. We can do this safely and effectively. It's just that people's starting points need to be tailored to where they are. And then depending on what they're living with, depending on their treatment and symptom burden, then we adjust their tailoring and use the physical activity to meet where they're at and help them progress. And so with that, I want to just so that program's finished now, the NPAL program. I will say before I go into this next little piece that that NPAL program, and then we have one that's just about to start up in neuro-oncology. We're taking a very individualized and tailored approach, and it really fits under that same ACE, the Alberta Cancer Exercise umbrella. So the recognition that while we've got this basic good model, to get better adherence and to get better benefits for our participants, that tailoring needs to really happen so that we can ensure they're engaging in a safe and effective program. So all of this is to say that exercise, physical activity, movement is really important, and it's really considered one of our pillars of wellness. So if we look at where exercise fits in terms of integrative oncology and as a complementary therapy, we see exercise and physical activity, diet, sleep, and stress reduction are all listed as really our pillars of, or our foundations of wellness. These are all modifiable lifestyle behaviors, meaning they're in our control. And we may have many factors that impact them, but at a basic level, they are under our control. We choose day in or day out, are we going to engage in some exercise or not? Now, that's been one of our problems in this whole field is we go, well, it's up to the individual. Either they're going to do it or they're not. And we haven't built an environment that's really supportive of them doing it. So right now, exercise is not part of standard cancer care. Not in Alberta, not across Canada, really not in North America. There may be some small pockets where it's happening, but it's not standard. So if we built an environment where every individual diagnosed with cancer at some point during their journey found out about exercise, had a program available to them, an exercise oncology specific program, it makes it much easier for them to have that choice and the ability to choose engaging in the program because it's there, they have access to it. And I will say, as a foundation of wellness, we have more evidence for exercise and physical activity across treatments, across cancer types, across stages of disease than we do for any of these other behaviors. They're all important, but really our evidence base supports exercise and physical activity as being absolutely essential. So based on that, how do you do it? Well, I'm going to tell you in a minute about a little bit more about our programs in case you're not familiar with ACE or our newest one, Excel, and also Wellspring's Exercise and Educate programming that we do. But if we set it up for you and if we give you that environment, what we know is really important is not just teaching you the exercise, right? We can teach anybody a squat, anybody a lunge, all of those pieces. Excuse me. But what we have to do is better support behavior change. And so in the exercise programs we've built in ACE, in Excel, in our Exercise and Educate program for Wellspring, we train our facilitators to be able to integrate behavior change skills within our exercise programs. And probably our biggest one is goal setting. So we have a lot of evidence showing the benefits of setting goals and how that can positively impact behaviors. So everybody has heard tonight, exercise is good for you. Most of us know it's good for you, but it's hard. And you're diagnosed with cancer and you've got treatments and appointments and you've got a pandemic now on top of everything else. Yeah, it's easier sometimes to choose the new Netflix show, right? I was never a Netflix watcher until the pandemic, and now I've watched 3 full series. So I get you on that. It's easier to choose Netflix many nights of the week. So using things like planning and scheduling, using things like goal setting, absolutely essential to help people develop a habit. Now, from a goal setting perspective, we teach a little bit different. Many of you have maybe heard about SMART goals. We do SMART with 2 R's and 2 T's. So when we're setting goals, it's great to say, I want to get more active. That is an absolutely excellent goal to have. But in order to make it something that you can hold yourself accountable to, we need to do a few things. So we want to have very specific goals. So instead of I just want to become more active, I'm going to start moving by engaging in walking 3 times a week. So now instead of active, I've got, well, my activity is walking and I'm going to do it 3 times a week. That gets into our next piece. It's measurable. I can track if I've done it 3 times a week. It's attainable. I'm not saying I'm going to start and I'm going to do 30 minutes a day like the guidelines every day of the week, right? If you're sedentary and living with cancer and going through treatments and have the burden of symptoms, that may really not be attainable, right? So starting's realistic. And we always say, start low and progress slow, right? We want to start where you can achieve it so you feel success. Because once you feel successful, you're much more likely to want to keep going. Okay, and that's absolutely crucial. You want to then make goals that are relevant to you. So what's important to you? Is it, I don't know, becoming more fit, developing muscles? Is it having the energy to go back to work? Is it improving your physical function so you can get up and down off the floor to play with a grandchild? Right? Like what is important to you? What's relevant to you? And then we can use exercise. We can tailor the exercise if we know what's relevant to ensure you're doing the right exercises to help you achieve that goal. Along with that relevant piece, it's realistic. So if you're sedentary and just starting treatment, you can have that big audacious goal down the road for engaging in the Terry Fox run next year, right? And that's great. But what are you going to do in the meantime so that it'll keep you accountable, on track, and motivate you, right? What can be your walking goals on a daily basis and then a weekly basis? So keep it realistic. And again, that low, start low and progress slow, that will help you attain it and develop the habit. And then 2 of the big T's, timely and together. So you want to have a time frame on it. And we always tell individuals, make goals for weekly or bi-weekly, but you can really set daily goals that can help motivate you, right? And it might be, okay, if I get my 10 minutes of walking in or my 15 minutes of yoga stretching down on my mat, then I'm going to take the time to read a bit of my book, or I'm going to have a Zoom call with a friend, or I'm going to sit down with my cup of tea and my biscuits, right? Whatever it is that's motivating for you. But setting those daily, weekly, bi-weekly goals, really, really important so that you see a time frame. So then when you're successful, the reward, if you don't have that success, reevaluating, was it too hard? Was it just not motivating? Was it not the right goal for you? And then the together. This comes back to social support. It comes back to building a community. It comes back to using, if you can, and building your goal setting within a group-based environment and having others that know about your goals, right? So they can hold you accountable, so they can ask you about it, so they can congratulate you when they see you being successful. Okay, that together piece, if there's anything we know, it's that individuals that have support are much more likely, so much more likely to build a habit of regular physical activity or movement or exercise than people that don't have social support. And really important to build that habit, but maintain it longer term. Okay, so if we can give you some of those skills, we can teach you the exercises. We can teach anybody different exercises, whether it's in a bed, in a chair, standing up, moving through a class. And so what is available to you? And I know we've got people tonight from Calgary, from Edmonton. I saw Trudy joined us from Ottawa. Pretty sure you have a Wellspring too in Ottawa, Trudy. And so I don't know what all the programs are called in different places, but in Calgary here, we have Wellspring's Exercise and Educate classes. And while all of those used to be delivered in person in our sites, everybody knows since the pandemic and the shutdown that we've transitioned to online. So just like you've joined us tonight for Zoom, as long as you have a computer, and I've had something with a screen to watch on and a decent internet connection, you can access these classes. For those that are from Calgary, you might recognize the smiley face there of Julia. And so our Exercise and Educate classes are really about empowering you, building that sense of community, and having you move. And you can see here, Small space, you don't need a lot of space to do this, just enough to move around a little bit. If you've got equipment, great. If you don't, that's okay too, right? So all of our programming is built on, you can start with your own body weight, and then you can add in bands or little light weights or heavier weights, depends on where your fitness level is at. These are all delivered group-based, online, safe and secure, moderators, really well-trained instructors though, and that's really key. And we have people joining these programs because we screen them that can have more advanced cancer. So as long as we know and the instructor knows how to tailor and what your unique needs may be, these can be an option to come into. The other two programs that I just want to briefly highlight before we move on to some questions and discussion is the one that Candace told you about. So if you're not familiar, our Alberta Cancer Exercise Program, it's led by Dr. Margie McNeely up in Edmonton and myself in Calgary. And this is a provincial initiative to really build exercise into standard cancer care. ACE has been built really for our major urban centers. So Calgary, Edmonton are our two primary sites that support then Medicine Hat, Lethbridge, Red Deer, Grand Prairie. And so ACE continues through spring, and then, you know, we are working with Cancer Care to hopefully see a transition to ACE being a program that does become available and is available through that Cancer Care system. But until spring, we're still running it. It's a research program. It's safe and it is very effective. So we have over 2,300 individuals with cancer who have gone through our ACE program. I think it's over 900 have completed our 1-year follow-up already. And so it is, from a research perspective, going to be one of the largest, if not the largest, exercise intervention population that we've seen. And our next programs, if you haven't been in ACE, you're not familiar with it, you can contact us. My information's at the end here, but our next programs start in January. And they are 12 weeks and everything will be delivered online. Based on the success of ACE, we were very fortunate to receive national funding to build ACE out across the country, essentially, and really with a focus of targeting individuals who haven't had access to exercise oncology programs. So Project Excel is for those living with cancer in remote and rural areas across the country. So we're taking ACE in Alberta, the same model, 12-week program delivered online for starters, and delivering it to individuals who are not in our major urban centers across Alberta, but then across the country. So Nova Scotia is our first area outside of Alberta, and then Alberta is going to support BC and Saskatchewan. So, and Trudy, it is coming to Ontario as well. Dr. Daniel Santamina and colleagues there are going to be working with northern sites to ensure that we've got Excel available. And so we're very excited about the opportunity to build this program out, and we're really excited to address that equity issue. We know that individuals who are in rural or remote locations, smaller towns, think of all the small towns across Canada, they typically haven't had access to supportive cancer care services. And they definitely haven't had access to specific exercise oncology classes. So Excel allows us to really increase the scope and our reach. And while, you know, we'd love to be back in person, Excel really has helped us fast track, COVID has helped us fast track Excel and increase our reach because it is being delivered online. Eventually, we'll have some community programs as well, but a lot of cancer survivors will always be accessing Excel online. And so with that, we're going to end with just a little bit more movement. So if it is available to you, I would love for you just to stand up right now if you can. If it's not comfortable to stand, you can just simply take your arms out to the side, wiggle your fingers, shake them out. We've all been sitting for a little while here. You can see our website is on this last slide. And again, we're going to send the slides out. So if you want to reach us or check out our website, where we have a ton of amazing resources to help individuals become more physically active, you can go to that website. So I'm going to stop my screen share. If you are comfortable, you can absolutely turn your camera on, turn your voice on. And you can wiggle it out a little bit. Roll your shoulders, come back to your breath. And when you're ready, you can sit back down. If it's available to you, you can take your legs out in front and point and flex your toe. I'm doing it underneath my desk here. Get the blood flowing. Stand up, move around. You can stretch gently side to side. That always feels good after you've been sitting for a little bit. Very gentle twist if that feels okay. And again, I'm big with tension in the shoulders. Roll the shoulders out. It always feels so good. Wonderful. Well, thank you everybody for joining us this evening. I don't know, Sheena, if you're going to come back on to moderate questions. I know Sheena had said at the beginning, if you want to type things into the chat bar on the side, I can see it again now. So you can do that.